Hey everybody, welcome to Horoscope Hour with Goddess of Magi, aka Erica, and today we're going to talk about Mars retrograde. Now, Mars is actually in its home sign of Aries, and it's retrograde from yesterday. My sidebar, my video uploaded, but there was no sound, so there's that. Okay. Now, it is retrograde from September 9th, which was actually yesterday. Today is the 10th. Until November 13th. Okay. One of the main themes that you need to think about right now is being patient. There is an energy of kind of taking a step back. Okay. Now is not the time to act, start new projects, etc. It's a time to go within. It's a time to rethink and refocus. And we need to consider how we express ourselves, depending on the house that Aries happens to fall in your chart. How we express our initiative, our courage, our assertiveness versus our aggressiveness. And we might be feeling hesitant to take action anyway because of this energy drawing us back. But again, it's time to go within. So instead of second guessing your intuition or your instincts, it's time to actually think about these things that have been happening in your life. This isn't a time to react the way that you normally would react in a given situation. And you have to consider that if anger is present during these 2 months, there could also be feelings of resentment, paranoia, depression, and arguments that flare up as a result of this anger that has either been building or is building currently as a result of Mars being retrograde. So some of these emotions that are coming to the surface, it is a call to recognize them, analyze them, and then move on from them. It's also a time to reflect on why it is that you react the way that you do, why you go after things the way that you do in a certain manner. Could that be redone in some way? Can you change that or alter that in some way to benefit you, depending on the house that Aries falls in? And you have to analyze your steps in taking your goals. Right now, it is, and some of us might start new projects. We'll get into that later. But it's not necessarily saying not to start anything new. It's just saying take a step back, right? Be patient. Be patient. That's the first theme. So plan. And because this is Mars, Aries, you have to be careful of viruses flaring up, illnesses, head injuries, accidents, and your energy. Your energy might also start to feel lower, maybe less vitality, if you will. Now, another theme that we have to think about with Mars retrograde here in Aries is desire versus will. We have to analyze the differences between what it is that we should do or we think we should do versus what we actually want to do. Okay. We need to take a look at our actions and our expressions because they're going to be less direct, but there's a reason for this. It's a time to reflect on how it is that you need to pursue a particular path, okay, or a particular conversation with someone. Don't rush in, because if you rush in and you don't think before you act during this time, there's going to be more confusion, more misunderstandings, more problems and obstacles and challenges that you're going to face as a direct result of you not taking the proper time to reflect. Retrograde season in general is all about taking a step back and looking at that energy. What are we taking a step back from? Well, Mars and Aries, action. So you are taking a step back from action to reflect on your actions and how you express yourself in this outer external world. You also have to pay attention to lessons that are creeping up from your past. Like I said, some of those buried emotions might start to come up to the surface. And it's not a time to, excuse me, go back into the past. It's actually a time for you to reflect on how things could have been handled differently. So that moving forward, right, we're moving forward after Mars goes direct, we know the right way to do things for us, individuals, okay? Sorry, guys, I'm not feeling well today. So when it comes to these lessons from your past and these emotions from your past, you have to understand that it's time to move on. It's time to let these emotions, these bottled up resentments and feelings and thoughts and just regrets go. Honestly, you can't change what happened. Everything happens for a reason, okay? At least in theory. So it's a time for you to really sit back and understand why things happen that way and how you can fix that for yourself in the future. Think about why they didn't work out. You know, even if you have to write it down to think about it, analyze it, so that you can see what didn't work, and then you can say, okay, here's what I'm going to do differently next time, and you guessed it, move on, move forward. Now, Mars being retrograde does tend to give us warmer weather. So it's September. So here in the Northern Hemisphere, we're moving into fall. So the next 2 months might be a little bit warmer than normal temperatures because of this Mars retrograde. That's not necessarily a guarantee, but it does tend to happen when Mars goes retrograde. Now, as I mentioned, we will be less direct with expressing ourselves, especially when it comes to our sexual needs. There's just something that this retrograde is kind of blocking the flow of energy. Like I said, your energy is feeling a little bit lower anyway. I'm already feeling it. And because of this lower energy flow, it could lead to a misunderstanding, which could lead to shame or resentment, or even reliving trauma from your root chakra or something like that. Something that you have to deal with sexually, because again, Mars, although isn't the only planet that hints towards sex, it does rule over an aspect of sex. So even though you might be less direct with expressing your sexual needs, you might actually feel a little bit more in the mood, if you will. I had to think of a G-rated word for that. So, like I said, if you have new projects, a new job, you're going to a new school, maybe you start dating a new partner. It's not to say that this is a bad time to start things. What it's saying is, now is not the time to rush into anything. Now is the time to think things through. So if you're not thinking it through, it's not for you. Also, how I'm going to be doing the readings is I'm going to be looking at your ascendant and where Aries falls in your chart in that house. So that's how I'll be reading it for you. You're going to see some delays, some obstacles, slower moving energy, as I said before, because of the retrograde energy. But Mars is going direct on November 13th, but it's not moving in this station until January 2nd. So we're going to be feeling Mars's energy all the way towards the end of the year, even though it's going direct and things will be flowing a lot easier. You probably won't see more movement, more fast-paced movement until after the new year. And the most potent days for Mars retrograde was the 8th of September through today, the 10th, and November 12th through the 14th. Matter of fact, the 12th through the 14th, that is Friday the 13th weekend. Oh, I can't wait. Okay, so I will be right back with the readings for your horoscope hour with Mars and Aries retrograde. All right, we're back. And guess what, guys? Because Mars is retrograde in Aries, we're going to start with Aries. Why? Because Mars happens to fall in your first house. This is your house of self. So not only will your self-image, your self-confidence, maybe even your parents are going to be kind of shifting a bit, if you will, okay? You might have a feeling of being more withdrawn. So that's why your self-confidence would not necessarily feel like it normally would, but that's okay. You need to make sure that you're getting rest, and you need to make sure that you're taking a time out to reflect why you feel this way. You're going to also be analyzing actions in your other houses. So you're discovering what it is that you really want, how you want to earn your income, how you want to make a family, get a partner, assert yourself in the world, develop your career. And you also, because it's in your first house, you have to review your assertiveness versus your aggressiveness. How are you coming across to people? I know sometimes I can come across pretty harsh, and people misinterpret what I say all the time just because I'm just like, okay, do. And they're like, oh, you're so insensitive. I'm like, I had no feeling towards that whatsoever. It was just a neutral statement. I didn't even think about it. You're the one overanalyzing it. So for Aries rising, okay, and you, if you don't know your rising sign, but you know your sun and your moon, listen to those descriptions instead, okay? But again, it's really about understanding where to draw the line at your assertiveness. When does it start to creep over into aggression? Okay. Especially if people, I'm hearing that people are bringing this up to you. So especially if you've been told about this, like, watch your attitude, or you're coming like, what's your problem? You know what I mean? If you're hearing these repetitively, it's like telling you that you really need to chill the fuck out. And when I talked about creeping emotions, there might be some buried issues coming to the surface for you. And because it's in your first house, it could really be anything. It could be childhood trauma. It could be financial issues. It could be relationship issues. Anything really that could possibly creep up can for you, because you're going to be the most affected by this. It's in your first house. So it's kind of slowing everything down for you. And you're going to have to think about what you need to do once Mars goes direct to fulfill your dreams, to make you happy. Next is Taurus. Taurus, we're going to go clockwise around the chart. So next would be Taurus. Taurus, this is happening in your 12th house. Okay, the 12th house is secrets, institutions, addictions, and subconscious, and spirituality, and psychic energy. So your intuition and spiritual matters could be affected, could be slowing down. You might not feel as connected with spirit. And here's the thing, because it's in the 12th house with subconscious and all of that darker energy, don't obsess about anything from the past, anything coming to the surface right now, because it's okay to revisit the past, but as we talked about, you also need to focus on moving on, especially if this is something that is triggered and it keeps coming back. I'm hearing it keeps coming back, okay? So it'll be a thought that pops up and you kind of suppress it again. But this is time to really analyze those emotions that are coming from the 12th house. Even certain dreams that you might have could have messages. And because it's slower moving energy, it might not come to fruition, or you might not understand the actual meaning until Mars goes direct, or a little down the line, once energy picks up. But you need to watch, because the 12th house, for deception in others as well, okay? Because the 12th house can be very secretive, okay? It can almost wear a mask. So because it is ruled by Neptune, you might not necessarily see people for who they are during this time, okay? Whether they're intentionally deceiving you or not, you could be deceiving yourself because it's happening in your 12th house. So just watch and keep an eye out. Don't rush into anything with anybody new at this time. Keep an eye out, pay attention to them, okay? And don't wear rose-colored glasses when it comes to these people, these new people. You might also be thinking about communicating some of your personal goals or your private life or something with people in your inner circle. This is not a time to do that. This is a time to assess who you can truly trust, okay? And to keep those to yourself, work on them, and then at a future date, if you feel comfortable, then go ahead and discuss these things with people. But right now, you need to keep your private goals, your plans, your private life to yourself. And with Neptune here again, there could be misunderstandings, confusion within yourself or with others. All right. Excuse me, I'm gonna get a sip of tea. Okay. Next is Gemini, and this is happening in your 11th house. So the 11th house is like your social network, your dreams, your aspirations. Basically, if you have any type of business income, those types of things, those could be challenged. These could be moving slower. And your enthusiasm for business or group activities or even being around social, certain friends in a social environment could kind of lessen during this time. You might just feel like, I'm just going to chill at home, I'm going to relax, just going to Netflix it out tonight. And that's okay, because right now you have some frustrations here with your social life, with your friends and within your network. And it's telling you that you need to reanalyze these relationships. What are your goals within these relationships? How do you assert yourself within these relationships? Okay. And don't get frustrated. Don't get frustrated. I know it's easier said than done because I have a Gemini sun. But what you need to focus on is your long-term goals, especially if it pertains to business income. Okay. And there could be some confusion about your long-term goals. Maybe not having a set plan. Maybe this is saying take some time out to really outline a structured plan. And I know, because again, I'm a Gemini sun, I'm hearing, ideas are coming, but you need to take the time, even if it's in your cell phone, jot that shit down. I am constantly writing notes in my phone because I might not have a pad and a pen to write down something, that I am planning out. If I'm at Aldi or Giant Eagle and the shit just pops into my mind, I'm not, So I say all that to say, to reduce the amount of confusion that you might have in pursuing these business goals, Gemini, you will need to actually sit down and follow through. You will need to sit down and say, okay, I have 3 ideas on how I can make money, what I can do with my business, yada, 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 yada. And then from those 3 goals, you're going to do step 1, step 2, step 3. What do I need to do? 1, you're going to need to research whatever it is. Okay, whatever it is, you're going to need to research. I'm hearing that. So do your research before you start planning, is what I'm hearing to tell you. Now, because this is in your 11th house, which is a very social house, some of your past friendships or friendship issues might surface during this time. Whether or not it is a direct communication about whatever happens, or it's just something that happens internally. You might be reflecting on past friendships or past friendship situations during this time that you will need to really go back and check yourself and say, what was my role in that? how did I assert myself in that situation? Okay. Right now, your goals are going to manifest slower, but this is so that you can refocus and review what needs done. Again, like I told you, I'm hearing you have lots of ideas, but it's not structured, and you really need to sit down and map it out. Definitely conserve your energy. Gemini, I know you have an abundance of nervous energy, but now is not the time to be bouncing off the wall, staying up, till 3 a.m. on TikTok and then going into work, whether you actually have to go to the office or you just log in at home, at 8 a.m. on 5 hours of sleep, and you're just like, I got this. No, you will not have this during Mars retrograde. So make sure you are eating right. Make sure you're taking care of yourself and getting enough rest. Cancer, this is happening in your 10th house. So your 10th house is ruled by Saturn, okay? It is Capricorn. So career, ambition, reputation, your either father or father figure. So this could be a lot of reorganizing of your career plans, goals, ambitions, and kind of setting yourself up for success in the future. If you're not getting the recognition that you want from whatever position you're in or you're working on, why not? Think about why you're not and why you're reacting this way. What can you do different to get what you want? How are you asserting yourself in the career realm or at work? Okay. You might also need to consider how you have previously or do assert yourself with a father figure or authority figure, a masculine authority figure at that. And instead of creating new projects at this time, now's the time to kind of go back to old projects and say, well, can I finish these? Or what can I redo to finish these? Or how can I rework these in some way to be a benefit to me in the future? And you need to think about what it is that you actually need and want from your career. What is it that you really want? Sorry, I just hit the camera. I'm getting my tea. I think I'll move it. So, you know that you need to edit projects already in progress and not start new initiatives. If you have a great idea for a new initiative, go ahead and write it down. Write it down. Don't tell anybody. And then move forward when the time is right, but now is not the time. Okay? So you also need to reassess how you organize your time. Your time management also comes into play because, again, you're going to need to be getting enough rest if you expect to earn a good reputation and see your career flourish here in the next couple of months to a year. But your motivation here, because your enthusiasm, again, your energy is drawing itself back, your motivation for work or what you've been doing might start to drop. It might start to maybe you think about giving up, or maybe I'm hearing giving up or kind of walking away. So if you're thinking about giving up or walking away from a particular career path, this could be saying that you need a new motivation. Okay, maybe money was the original motivation, or maybe enjoying your career was the original motivation. What if you switched it? Okay, it's just talking about reworking your motivation so that you can obtain that success. All right. Leo, this is happening in your 9th house. This is the house of wisdom, higher knowledge, spiritual information, religion. And this is also travel. So you might not necessarily feel like traveling at this time, especially if you have to. You might be feeling a little less adventurous than your normal self. And that's only because, again, you know, Leos, I won't, because you're in the house of Sagittarius, you would normally probably feel energized and willing to do more things. But because of the retrograde energy in that house, you're like, yeah, I'm cool. You guys go mountain climb or ski. I'll be here chilling. So because it's in the house of higher education and religion, you might be questioning your beliefs, or questioning some things that you were told or some things that you were taught. And it might lead to you not being happy with what you've been studying. It might cause you to really reflect on where you're at spiritually, where you're at. Again, this could also be higher education. So you might be thinking about going back to school or getting more education or training in some way. It has you really kind of going back in time and saying, what could I have done differently here, right? How could I redo that studying? Or how could I have fixed, you know, whatever the situation is, to have maybe not needed more education or not needed more information? And the truth of the matter is sometimes, depending on the industry that you're in, there's just constant changes, especially in technology and medicine. So you're constantly having to rework things, relearn things, and in machinery as well. If you're a machinist or something like that, you know, there's a lot of people who work with their hands, they're now doing computers. So just because you have to go back to school or get more training is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just saying, you know, think about maybe how this is not necessarily going back to square one, because you might have that feeling like, fuck, I got to start all over. I don't know what this means, you know. And if you're in coding and you learn a new code, or not a new code, but maybe a different type of technique for that code, like an updated modern version of that code, it's just like, God damn it, now I got to learn something new. But that's okay. This is saying that this is all for the betterment of you. So your approach needs to be assertive and not aggressive, and have a positive attitude. Again, you don't want to get in that self-pity mode, like, oh, I got to start over, I'm back to square one, yada, yada, yada. You got to think about how to approach these things in new ways so that you can be happy about it, so that you can be motivated to do it. But again, you might be feeling a little lower energy. So maybe you just do a little research during this time so you don't feel so out of your element if you do have to go back to school or if you do have to get more education. Okay, and if you're questioning your beliefs, maybe think about how you assert your opinion about those beliefs to others, right? We're all so sure until something pops up in our minds and we're like, oh, shit, I've been shoving this rhetoric down people's throats, but I just learned something new that's making me kind of shift my opinion or widen my perspective, if you will. So think about your assertiveness versus your aggression when it comes to your spiritual system or your religion, okay? Virgo, this is happening in your 8th house. Woo, y'all. Woo. This is heavy. Aries is feeling it for sure. But Virgo, this is your house of intimacy. This is joint and shared resources or finances. This is taxes, inheritances, traumas, fears. So yeah, a lot. So there could be some intimacy issues, obviously, that arise from this position of retrograde being in your 8th house. And there could be more complications within your relationships because of that, or even internally because you're like, well, shit, why can't I just say that I love you? Or why can't I just walk away from a shitty ass relationship? Or whatever the case may be. Why are you having these problems in your intimate most intimate bonds. Your think about how you treat your partner, because this is the house of Scorpio and Pluto. So what is the power dynamic between you and your partners? Are you being more controlling or obsessive, or are they? Think about that. What could you do differently to fix these issues? You really have to refocus and realign with your internal self here, because again, there could be fears creeping up, underlying traumas and emotions that are creeping up. And for real, anger management. Remember I said if you're feeling that anger at the beginning here, I talked about feeling anger, how it can lead to resentment, paranoia, arguments, depression, and a whole bunch of other negative emotions. But here in the 8th house, where Pluto is, okay? And you have to remember, Mars used to rule over Scorpio, okay? So before this house was Pluto, it would have been a house of Mars, okay? That's why that anger management is there. And that's why you need to understand that if you have anger creeping up, it's time to take a chill pill, walk away for the greater good, because honestly, it's not going to serve anybody if you're over here snapping the fuck out, right? So, finances. There could be joint financial product. I'm sorry, guys, I'm tired of shit. Financial projects, and there could be some delays in those. So it's important to understand that if something isn't going through as immediate as you thought it would or expected that it would, there's a reason for this, okay? It's probably nothing that you did wrong or somebody else did wrong. It's probably just this retrograde energy affecting your house. So during this time, you might also struggle with debts, all right? Or needing support from someone else. Again, that financial relying on somebody, even maybe like a codependency type of situation, could be getting worse. And also watch for addictions, because this is Scorpio and Pluto, things that are hidden. And make sure that any traumas or fears or addictions or codependencies are not driving your behaviors or your patterns. You don't want to slip back into past patterns or habits that are unhealthy for you. Okay. So again, you want to, especially if you're starting a new relationship around this time, make sure that you or your partner is not obsessive, because it can be a very intense experience with Mars retrograde here in this 8th house. And depending on, how it's affecting that partner, again, it could be either or, but if it's too obsessive, you need to walk away. It's cute to a degree, but then when you start getting creepy, no. And you need to assert yourself, right? Throat is so parched. Y'all, let me tell you a little story before I get to Libra. See these guys? See these boys? Okay, so when I was a young lass in high school, I fell in love with a band called Savage Garden. It's very poppy, very just weird music, but they had this love song called Truly, Madly, Deeply that I truly, madly, deeply love. And that's actually what got me interested in the band. And then I was just like, I accept everything that you do because you're great. And yeah, this is from one of their concerts. Erica has had this since she was 14. It has been stretched. I bought it big, so just in case I ever like blew up, I could still wear this shirt. So I was like a size 5, and I bought like this double XL shirt. So if you're wondering, that's who that is, Savage Garden. Darren Hayes and Daniel, whatever his name was in love with Darren. But he's gay, so I didn't have a chance. But I still love him. All right, who's ready? Story time is over, guys. Let's get back to Libra. Libra, this is happening in your 7th house of partnerships, business partnerships, and negotiations. Okay, so you need to think about how you are asserting yourself in these relationships, especially with your long-term romantic partners. If you're married, we're talking about your spouse. If you're in a relationship, a long-term relationship, we're talking about your boyfriend or girlfriend. If you are single, you need to think about how you assert yourself in relationships in general, okay? With those that are closest to you. Because I know some people are like, well, I'm not in a relationship. I understand. So you fit the description to fit you. Or at least that's how I do it. So that's how it's going to be done here. All right. We don't like to exclude anybody. But if you are in a partnership, your partner could be less direct right now. If you're single, maybe you're talking to somebody and they're kind of being less direct, or maybe you're feeling that way, like you should be less direct. If you're not talking to anybody, you're not dating anybody, maybe you need to think about how direct you are in conversation with your business partner or your best friends, or maybe you're just your favorite people, whoever they are. They could be family, friends, co-workers, mentors. It doesn't matter. The closest people to you. Okay, you need to think about how you assert yourself in those relationships and how you allow them to assert themselves towards you. Don't be passive aggressive. Okay, now is not the time to be passive aggressive, because basically what you're doing is you're suffocating your voice and you are bottling up your anger. And I'm hearing suffocate, suffocate, suffocate. So maybe you're feeling suffocated because you're so passive aggressive. Is it really going to mess things up if you tell somebody how you feel? You don't have to say, hey, fuck you, blah, 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 blah. You can just be like, hey, you know what? I love you, but this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. There could be new projects or negotiations that, if I said new, I didn't mean to say new. Projects or negotiations can have delays, okay? Or additional challenges or obstacles in order for them to come to fruition. Because the 7th house is also business contracts. So if you're waiting for a contract, or you're waiting on some sort of important document, legal document, this is saying that it might not come when you're expecting it, or maybe there's some challenges or obstacles or something like that within it. Maybe it's not a delay, but something else. You have to reorganize your energy around the significant people in your life, whoever that is for you. Meaning, understand how you approach relationships and understand what you really want out of them. What do you expect from them? Right? Okay, Scorpio, this is happening in your 6th house. And this is the house of work, daily routines, health, or diet. And it's talking about slowing down, kind of taking a step back and review how you're managing your daily routines, especially your health regimen. Are you taking your medications if you have to take medications? Are you eating right? Are you sleeping long enough? Okay. If your body is telling you that you're tired, are you working overtime? And if so, why? Why are you doing it? Because If you're feeling that you have lower energy to get through these daily tasks, that's telling you to slow the hell down. The sixth house, which is the house of work, is directly across the chart from the house of rest. So if you're overworking your body and you're overworking yourself at work, you are going to burn out. So avoid that and take some self-care time, okay? Make sure, sorry, my nose is itchy. Make sure that you are taking time, whether it's the weekends or whatever. You don't have to work overtime all the time. Work overtime 3 days out of the week if you work a 5-day work week. It's that simple, right? And you might not feel like it is, but honestly, when you love yourself and you practice self-care, you're going to feel better, period. So maybe you're not really feeling your current job or your coworkers, or maybe just like the daily routine where you have to get up, go to work, or log into work and feed the kids and help the kids with school, or, take your mom to the doctors, or whatever your daily routine consists of. Maybe it's boring to you. Maybe you're just like, oh, I'm just so tired. That's okay. You have to think about how you organize your time. How do you organize your time for that daily routine? Do you leave any time to think about your health and self-care? How can you take care of others and go to work and be a good employee if you're not taking care of yourself first? Okay? So if you're working on a project at work, or maybe you had started a diet or, a better health plan for yourself, you might run into some obstacles or delays or challenges here. And it's just, asking you how you assert yourself when it comes to your daily routines. Are you managing your time wisely? How do you assert yourself when it comes to taking yourself as a priority and making sure that self-care and your diet and your health regimen is up to par with what you need? Okay. Are you taking your medicines daily, right? All of this plays a part into your health. Are you getting regular checkups? Oh, I don't have time. I work all the time. You choose to work. You're not a slave. Okay. Sagittarius, this is happening in your 5th house of creativity, children, hobbies, romance, and entertainment. So you could be considering how assertive you are in your relationships with your children or your romantic relationships. You could also be thinking about why are there delays, right? Maybe there's a delay in conceiving during this time. Maybe there's a delay in your romantic relationships. Maybe the communication just isn't there between you and your partner or you and your child. And so you're really thinking about the desires, the needs of other people as well as yourself. What do you want, right? When we look here, right, we talked about the being patient theme. You have to have courage to speak to your partner about the things that you need and you desire and that you want, especially in the romance department, okay? There could be a new approach to your relationships or to love in general, or how you show love that is needed, because the 5th house is ruled by Leo. Yes, yes. I had this count in my head. So yes, the 5th house is ruled by Leo. So this is very loving energy. So you have to think about how you love, how you show love. How do you use your creativity to show love? Or how do you use your creativity to assert yourself with your children, right? Instead of just beating them, can you be creative in their discipline? And you might return to a past lover or a past hobby at this time. If it's a past lover, I'm saying right now, let it go. From here, let it go. For the simple fact that, again, we are moving forward. We are moving forward. So it's okay to revisit the past. It's okay to think about that person. Maybe that person that pops back up in your life and you're like, wow, it didn't work out before. Maybe I can give him a chance now. No, now's not the time. If you want to talk to them after Mars goes direct, great. But let me tell you something. If you do it prematurely, all those frustrations and all the reasons that y'all, even went your separate ways, are going to pop back up once Mars goes direct. And we don't want that, right? We want to be in our most abundant, happy selves here in the future. So what that means is you need to let it go. You don't want to be stuck in the past or preoccupied with one person in particular when there are so many more fish in the sea, right? You might have anxiety that starts to surface, whether it is revolving around your relationships or your children, and or conceiving or something like that. Maybe you're trying to start something new, right? This is creativity. So if you're trying to create something, there might be some anxiety around that new creation as well. If you have anger, you have to watch for your passive aggressiveness, especially in the fifth house, towards your children and towards your partner. And you need to really sit down and strategize your goals. Whether it's a new approach to love, trying to make time to learn Spanish or the piano or whatever your hobbies are, you need to strategize your goals. What do you want out of these relationships? What do you want for your children? Are you working on these things? Are you being assertive and going after what it is that you want in your relationship? Okay. Now, I'm not saying you guys just get together, you've been together for 3 months, and you're like, marry me. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay. It means having honest conversations with your partner. Capricorns, this is happening in your fourth house of home, family, and security. Now, you might be feeling defensive from past issues creeping up, and this could be family issues from your childhood. It could be family issues with your mother because the fourth house rules over your mom, or it could be your current family situation with your partner and your children. Okay. And you don't have to feel defensive, guys. You do not have to feel defensive. First of all, I already know Capricorns are defensive any fucking way, but let that shit down. Put it down. Put your burdens down. For real. Because how you express your anger in your home and around your family is being felt. How you try or how you insist on asserting yourself is being felt. And let me tell you something, it's causing some issues, okay? And your living conditions might be unstable because of this. Also, because it also deals with the actual house itself. There could be some delays or something like that if you're trying to like remodel your home or fix it in some way. There could be a delay or an obstacle or a challenge related to that as well. But yes, dealing with your family at home, you need to really think about how you assert yourself in those relationships. Capricorn always thinks they got the best answer for everything. They always think that they should be the ones in charge. They know best, blah, blah, blah. But that's not always how it is. And you're creating conflicts and disputes with your family because you're thinking this way. You might even live on your own and argue with your mom or your parents or your sister or your grown ass children because you think you gotta assert yourself some sort of way towards your family. But what you need to do is you need to deal with that buried anger because that's what you're not doing. You're not dealing with the buried anger that has, I'm feeling this, okay, so it could be current family, it could be this, that, and third. Everybody's different. But for some of you, I'm hearing this is past. This is past childhood trauma that you need to seriously work on. You need to seriously confront. Ask yourself why you're feeling that way. How you could have reacted differently. What could you have done to change it? Not saying that you could have, but what could you have done to change it? Love yourself as the kid. Love yourself as however old you were when that trauma began. That's what I'm feeling for some of you. It's really heavy, so I have to say it. But just think about that. I don't even remember what I just said because it was just channeling the whole time. But some of it is it's deep. I can feel the pain deep. It is, and it hurts, and you need to make sure that you're taking that time to cry, to face it, and to talk about it. Talk about it. I'm hearing that there's a lot of suppression, of these feelings, and not just because you're a Capricorn, because you might have a water sign as your sun or moon, but you have Capricorn rising. But there's some suppression energy for some of you. Okay, getting off on a tangent. This is not a mediumship reading. But you need to deal with that buried anger. And you need to take a look at some of these inconveniences with your family or in or around the home and think about how you can use them to your advantage. Okay? So you're renovating your home, there's a delay. Okay, so that means you can do something else that day that maybe you were going to wait and put off until after that was done. If you live with family members and you feel insecure for some reason, why do you feel that way? Why are you reacting to the situation the way that you are? Okay. You need to think about these things. And you need to reassess and refocus on how you can better express yourself with your family. How you can truly assert yourself with them without coming across as a dick, as a know-it-all, bossy type of person. Okay? There's compromise, and all of this energy affects your security. So if you're not feeling secure with your family, right, if the relationships are kind of rocky, it's time to really sit down and think about how things happen the way that they did. And it's time to go within, right? Not take action. Wait until you've thought it through and really align with your spiritual self. Damn, Capricorns, y'all needed to hear a whole bunch of stuff. All right, I'm stopping the spirits right there, because we done been on Capricorn for about 25 minutes. All right. So, Aquarius. Aquarius is having Mars retrograde in their third house. And Aquarius' third house is communication. It is siblings, neighbors, acquaintances, and transportation. Like guys. So with Mars retrograde here, there could be some issues with communication. How are you asserting yourself when you communicate to people? Are you asserting yourself when you communicate to people? There could be, some missed meetings or delays because the third house also deals with e-commerce and business like that, telecommunications. So there could be some delays in those departments if you deal with that type of thing. And there could be miscommunications or missed opportunities or something like that because transportation is unreliable or something's going on with transportation. It's moving slower than normal. So you're arriving late to work or you're arriving late to your auditions or your meetings or whatever the case may be. So that is to be expected. So make sure you are leaving your house about 15 to 20 minutes earlier. Or if the bus comes a whole ass hour earlier, if it's an important meeting, if you have to be at work, leave earlier the next 2 months, just to avoid any situations. And because that communication factor is there, you might be feeling like, I don't feel like pretending to be nice to everybody. Like, I just don't fucking feel like it. I don't want to communicate. I'm good. So you might feel yourself being impatient with people, or when you're out and about in society, because you just don't want to interact. You don't want to communicate. You might be starting to learn something new. This is also a house of learning, like the ninth house. So you might be learning something new, and you might be a little bit bored with it, or maybe you're like, why the fuck did I choose to look into this or study this? Or maybe some of you are going back to school and you're like, oh, my schedule sucks, or I'm just not ready. So you're feeling a little bit of funkiness here towards learning these 2 months here, but it's okay, because you might feel that it's boring. You might feel the urge to abandon certain things, but don't. Stick it through. Like I said, these 2 months are going to be sucky, but if you can stick it through, see it through to the end, and just don't add anything to the pile, you're fine. There are, because of this communication, there's a challenge with your self-expression directly from your throat chakra. So you might want to work on the throat chakra area, and, maybe avoid some social activities or social interactions that you already know, like, you already know you don't want to be there. So don't go. Just, if you don't want to, don't go. If you want to, cool, but understand how you might feel once you get there, and how your communication could come across as impatient, right? Or as like misunderstandings as well, I'm hearing. So pay attention to how you're communicating to kind of avoid the drama and further setbacks here in your third house, right? So if you know you're going to be late, give somebody a call, okay? I'm hearing that communication could be linked directly to transportation, so that's why I said that. Okay, Pisces. Last but certainly not least, okay. This is happening in your second house. And your second house is your personal finances, your possessions, your assets, your value system, what you value. And you might need to review your budget and your financial planning. You might need to think about how you assert yourself when it comes to earning money. Are you assertive, or are you aggressive? Or are you either one of those, right? So if you're having issues with money, budget, financial planning, you need to think about how you assert yourself in that area, in that realm. If you have been working at the same company for 20 years in the same position, you've barely gotten a raise, you haven't been promoted, what the literal fuck are you doing? If you're not asserting yourself, how do you expect to rise above your current circumstance? And that's what I'm hearing for some of you. Some of you, it's like you're spinning your wheels, but yet you're not doing anything about it. That's for some of you, not all of you. But for the majority of you, you need to reassess how you earn income. Some of your ideas might feel like they were bad ideas, and they weren't necessarily. So during this time, you need to go back to some of those ideas, rework them, rebuild them, and think about what you could do differently for 2021, especially if these are things that you're still involved with, earning money. Maybe you have a business or a side business, or you collect coins or something like that. How can you do it differently moving forward? You also have to be cautious, because you're very emotional, and your emotions are related to finance. So if you're pay attention to your emotions these next 2 months, if you're feeling down, is your bank account empty? If you're feeling down, what's your money looking like? Okay, if you're feeling unhappy, depressed, whatever, what's your money doing? Okay, now some of you might be feeling down because you have relationship issues outside of whatever, or other issues that I'm unaware of. But with this energy, your emotions are directly connected to your finances, Pisces. So revise any money and security matters. All right. If you if you're feeling that if you're feeling like you're not getting what you need, revise, reassess, refocus, and then move forward once you've rebuilt whatever it is that you're trying to manifest. Now that you've looked at it from a different perspective of trying to understand where you went wrong and how you can fix that. Again, you can't change the past. It's about how we can move forward in the future. How can we use this information? If you invested incorrectly, or you're stuck at that same job, you know, this is a call for you to analyze your moves. And you need to think about your needs versus your desires. Okay? Because it needs to be balanced. Yes, you should have a home, you know, food on the table, clothes to wear, possibly a car if you're lucky. But it's okay to want the car. It's okay to want nicer clothes. It's okay to go out to eat once in a while, type of energy. So it's saying that it's okay to walk a line. Don't go over budget into the desire end of the spectrum. And don't be a miser in the needs end of the spectrum. Walk a fine line, you know, make sure all the needs are met, and then dip your toe in the pool of the desire. If you're not comfortable with, you know, just saying, I'm going to have a me day and splurging on yourself for that day, just go get yourself your favorite ice cream cone. It starts with one small gesture for yourself. Now, we talked about anger with a lot of different placements here. You might feel some anger begin to grow into resentment if you feel overlooked or unappreciated, especially when it comes to any type of personal finance or your income or your value system. Spirit is needing you to make changes. So if you think that you're not earning enough income because you're being underappreciated or overlooked, are you really being underappreciated or overlooked? Or are you not hanging with the right types of people? Are you not around the right types of potential clients? Are you in the right position to earn the right type of income that you want? If you're feeling underappreciated, who are you hanging out with that makes you feel underappreciated? Okay? Ask yourself that. Why do you feel the way that you do? Right? Analyze your steps in the planning process of how you can generate more income and more personal finances, more possessions, while remaining true to your value system. Because it's about balance for you guys. Well, that was it for your Mars in Aries retrograde readings. I thank you guys, and as always, stay witchy. I appreciate you for coming.